Hey guys, my name is Tegan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a massive Pride haul. Basically, I've collected a bunch of graphic novels as well as normal novels that have different representations of the LGBT plus community that I think would be great reads if you're looking to celebrate Pride Month. So I'll be reviewing them. Today I'm not actually sure if I'm going to be doing a cocktail for the video. Usually I'll make a cocktail that's inspired by what I'm talking about, but today I'm running out of time and I'm feeling a bit lazy, so I may not do it. But I may still, so if you do, it'll be at the end of this video. If it's not, don't expect it. So I've got a heap of books, so let's just get this underway. The first series that I want to talk about is actually a comic book series. It is the Legend of Korra graphic novels. They are actually a continuation of the TV series Legend of Korra. Basically, it picks up just minutes after Legend of Korra ends, following Asami and Korra in the spirit world when they basically have kind of a honeymoon, but of course things go wrong. And there's adventures on the way. These are really fun if you enjoyed Avatar and if you really wanted to see that Asami and Korra relationship develop. So I would definitely recommend it if that's up your alley. You don't actually even have to have watched Avatar to understand it, but it's an awesome series, so I feel like you should anyway. So the next book is The Song of Achilles. I'm usually someone that's pretty unsure about picking up books that are based off of Greek mythology because they're not usually done very well, but this book did it really well and I absolutely adored it. I actually finished reading it recently and couldn't put it down. It's a story told from Patroclus' point of view, and it's about his love, the love between him and Achilles. It's kind of a retelling of the Iliad. If you guys don't know what the Iliad by Homer is, it's this epic poem that talks about the fall of Troy. This book isn't really a retelling as much as it is more Achilles' experiences and more of a branching out on who he was before the Battle of Troy and everything that happened during it. So it's a tragic romance if you know how the Iliad ends. Just in general, when gods are involved, things don't go well. So Achilles is really told as a very androgynous character throughout the book, which I really loved seeing as he's the warrior of his generation. So instead of just telling him as the average macho man, the writer really took the opportunity to tell this other side of Achilles. This book, if you were a big Greek mythology fan and you loved the Iliad, I would suggest picking it up and giving it a shot. I actually felt it kind of enhanced the Iliad for me and filled in things that I wanted more of in terms of Achilles and especially Patroclus, as I'm one of those people that read it and was really intrigued by the dynamic between those two. Next for graphic novels, I have Welcome Back or We Come Back. So this is a story by Christopher Sabella, and it basically tells the story of these two characters who have been trapped throughout time, being reincarnated and torn in this war where they're destined to always find each other and always kill each other. They're soldiers on opposite sides of a war, but they have no idea what they're fighting for. And these guys are kind of known to stray from their fate of killing each other and kind of trying to fight either side. So in each reincarnation, they're being watched because they usually tend to bend the rules. So in this version, this follows the story of Marley and Tessa, who are soldiers on either side, and they're technically the soulmates destined to kill each other. Marley has just woken up and is now aware of who she is and that she's a soldier for this side of the war, but she doesn't want to kill anyone and she does not want to live that life. I don't want to give anything away, and it's really hard to actually talk about graphic novels without giving things away. But if you were a fan of The 100 and you liked Clark and Lexa, or you were a person of interest fan and you liked the Root relationship, this kind of reflects that type of dynamic where it's the high stakes, forbidden romance thing, and it's really these two badass characters in love and defying all odds together. So I actually have two recommendations for this author in this haul. The first one being the Runaways reboot by Rainbow Rowell. So Rainbow Rowell has taken Runaways, which was originally a series by Brian K. Vaughan, and it's kind of a reboot but more of a spin-off. It picks up later in life for these kids. So they're all in college age now, and after the incidents in the last series, Rainbow is kind of telling a story of them all finding each other again and being different people as adults and reconnecting. So the representation of this book is found in Carolina, Dean, and Nico Minoru. Carolina is a lesbian who literally glows rainbow. So she's basically the epitome of a lesbian icon. She is a fun and bubbly character, which I really love to see in your main characters because they can't all be dark and brooding. And then Nico is a bit more undefined in terms of sexuality. It's always been built on a lot more subtext in the original series, and now this series, Rainbow Rowell, is kind of branching out into it. Hulu are actually doing the TV series for this, in which Carolina and Nico are going to be romantically connected. It's really a really enjoyable watch, so I'd also recommend that. But basically, if you're looking for a really heartwarming series with great friendships at the forefront, this is your book to read. So the next thing I have is another graphic novel called Archival Quality. Archival Quality follows the story of Cell, who is a girl who just had a mental breakdown and she got let go of her job as a librarian. So she ends up getting a job as a archivist at a kind of creepy library that no one wants a job for, but she's desperate, so she takes it, and she gets lodging in the library and kind of takes it as an opportunity to try and uplift her life. So when she gets into the library, weird things start happening. Cell starts having dreams of this weird girl, and then she starts losing time and finding strange things around the library. And after it kind of comes to a point, she decides that she's going to investigate what happened and the true history of this library and what happened to this girl. So the main root of this story is about mental health, and it's dealt with in a really realistic way. Cell is a really strong character and one of my favorites that I've read in a long time. The supporting cast is really diverse. We have the librarian, who is in a relationship with a woman, and they're basically everything that I want to be when I grow up. And all of the outside characters have their own voice and are very unique. So in addition, the creators of this book, I know that the illustrator is bisexual. I'm not sure about the writer, but having actual members of the community behind the content is so important. Straight cis white people can write about things other than straight cis white people, and they can do so really well. But if all we're ever seeing is straight white cis people writing the content and behind the content, it kind of doesn't actually do much for the community. So I think it's really important to support those projects that are from people that are members of the community, and this is one of them. Two books that you're almost definitely going to know that are really popular right now as well are Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becca Albertalli and her spin-off Leo on the Offbeat. Simon actually just got a movie called Love, Simon, which is amazing. You should check out. Basically, they're both different coming out stories. This one follows Simon, who's gay and closeted, and it's much more of a story on coming out and relationships and friendship. Whereas Leo on the Offbeat is a lot more of a lighthearted, more romance-focused story of a bisexual girl who has feelings for another girl and is kind of starting to discover herself. So they're both really important books, I think, for the YA genre, and you haven't read them, definitely pick them up. These are the type of books that I wish that I had when I was a teenager. So the next graphic novel I have is called Love is Love. So this is an anthology comic book that was created in response to the Orlando shooting. All the proceeds went to the victims or survivors and their families. And basically all these different creators came together to write different stories within it that told different stories within the LGBT plus community. We have people like Batwoman showing up, and then we have ordinary stories. Gail Simone, who I've mentioned in this video, is a writer in it as well, and we have a lot of really well-known writers in there and illustrators that have done it really well. I think it was a really nice show of solidarity. So this was a really devastating event, and to have this come together and try and do some good was really important. I don't know if you can get the paperback version of this anymore, but I know you can definitely get it online, and I believe all proceeds will still be donated. So yeah, it's a really nice anthology of different stories that are very heartwarming and was just a really big light in a really dark part of our history. So this is the second Rainbow Rowell suggestion in this video, and this is Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. So Carry On basically came into being because Rainbow Rowell made a book called Fangirl, in which this fangirl wrote fan fiction about a story that was very obviously supposed to be Harry Potter. So when that kind of kicked off and she wrote excerpts of the fan fiction that her character was writing in Fangirl, Rainbow actually went off and wrote the book that the fan fiction was based off of. So this book is kind of Harry Potter if Draco and Harry were in love. I know a lot of people are into that, so this is probably why this was so popular. I really loved it because as a Potterhead, I had these opinions about the characters that were very obviously meant to be characters from Harry Potter. So you go in there with these ideas of them. You think this person can be trusted, or this person's shady, I hate this person. And she really used that against you and used it in her favor to kind of make an unexpected story. It really gave me that feeling that I had when I first read Harry Potter. And the relationship between the two main characters here was really lovely to read, and especially in fantasy where we don't have many gay relationships, it was nice. It was a really nice change. The next book I have is An Unbearable Lightness by Portia de Rossi. If you don't know who Portia de Rossi is, she's from Arrested Development, is a very big actress, did some modeling, and she's also married to Ellen DeGeneres. So this is an autobiography in which she tells the story of her struggle with her eating disorder and her life through Hollywood and discovering her sexuality. In it, we see her meet Ellen, and it's just a really important book. I read this when I was 14, I think, And it was really good for learning about self-worth and seeing her journey of learning that she needs to love herself. Reading about her meeting Ellen was, of course, super heartwarming and adorable, but at the root of it, this book is a really important personal journey. So if you're looking for something deeper to read, I think this is definitely worth a shot. So the final book I have for this haul is the Enquiries trilogy. This series was one of my favorite things that I ever came across 2 years ago. I kind of stumbled upon it. I don't know how exactly, but I ordered it online and it showed up on my doorstep and I destroyed it in a day, which this is a pretty thick book, so that's saying something. So basically this follows some teenage girls that discover that they're witches and they're a circle and they're basically the chosen ones that have to fight off an evil that's arising and an apocalypse that's approaching. I usually hate chosen one stories, but in this case, this book was so rooted in the character development and the characters were so vivid and real that it made it not seem like a throwaway plot. The characters were really, really realistic as teenagers. I would have so many moments where I'd be reading them and they come out with things that I'd said as a teenager, and I just really felt like it was a great representation of high school, even though it's a fantasy series. So the representation in this book is there is a relationship between two of the girls in this. You don't actually see it until the second book, but there's a lot of subtext in the first book. And I remember when I was reading it, I thought I was going crazy thinking, these two are totally into each other, right? And usually I just think I am crazy because I'm always looking out for subtext and sweet, sweet hope for some type of representation. But then it actually does develop into something. So I wasn't crazy. This book was actually a Swedish book and got translated into English. You wouldn't even realize it because it's translated so well. When I first read it, I went immediately onto Tumblr to ramble about it, and Sarah, the writer, well, one of the writers, she responded to me and she was absolutely lovely. And I really think that they deserve a lot more recognition in the English reading community. I know that it's been popular overseas because I know that it definitely got its own movie, but I'd really love to see more booktubers picking this up. I don't know why no one has. Maybe it's just not well known, but it's so worth a look, especially if you love witches and you love women who love women and you love good characters. Another graphic novel is Young Avengers by Kieran Gillen. So this book, if you're on Tumblr, you're probably aware of this book. You've probably heard of America Chavez at the least. So it is a Rat Pack team of teen superheroes who basically are struggling with learning heroics and teenage life and growing up and everything. And the cast is really diverse. So the team is led by America Chavez, who is bisexual. We also have Kid Loki in there, who if you've watched the movies, you will know who Loki is. But he's a younger version of him in this one. And in general, Loki's very genderqueer, very sexually diverse. So you can't really pin any labels on him. So the main couple in this book in terms of representation is Hulkling and Wiccan, which is a gay romance. They are absolutely adorable. And again, it's just lovely to see teen boys allowed to experience their sexuality without there being so much of conversation about it. Kieran Gillen really writes characters really well. That's one of his biggest strengths, is making these characters have their own hang-ups and their own strengths and weaknesses and really round them out together. So it's really nice to see the team dynamic here. It's also hilarious. It's a really fun adventure series. At one point, I know that there's a conversation where Kate Bishop, who's Hawkeye, says something like, "Am I the only straight person in this group?" And America Chavez's response is, "Please, I've seen how you look at me." So basically, that's all you need to know that this is a pretty diverse book. It was a really big, important part of Marvel history because Marvel doesn't have, and definitely didn't have, too much diversity. It's self-contained, it's completely finished, so you can pick it up today and have the whole story at your fingertips. I would love to see this be revived personally because I was hungry for more of this team, and one day I will be praying for it. So if you guys could pick it up, that would probably help it actually get more hype to get revived. Finally, for this haul, I have The Wicked and the Divine by Kieran Gillen. Kieran Gillen also wrote Young Avengers, which I've mentioned in this series. Again, he's wrote an extremely diverse cast of characters. So this graphic novel tells the story that every 90 years, 12 gods come back to Earth in the form of young people. They're given 2 years to live, and then they're done. So in that time, they're loved, they're hated, they're absolutely adored, they become celebrities, and they just make the most of it. These young people that they've kind of possessed and become one with are given the option to either be this god and have 2 years to live, or continue to live an ordinary life. So most of them choose to be gods. So the group of gods aren't all from one faith either. You have Baal, who's from the Middle East, you have Buddhist gods, you have Greek gods, and there's a really big show of diversity in like gender fluidity and sexuality as well, because they're gods. They're not bound by these societal constructions. And it's really nice to see Gillen actually use that to his advantage. So most of the characters in the book are actually on the LGBTQ plus spectrum in some way. And it's probably one of the biggest range of diversity I've seen in graphic novels in a while. It's a really weird book. It's so enjoyable. It's so different from anything that I've read in a while. And I think it's worth a shot if you love engaging characters and quirky storytelling with insanely good art, then this is the one to pick up. So that's it for my Pride haul, guys. If you have any recommendations for me, please let me know. I'm always starved for diversity. So if you have anything that you've enjoyed recently that has someone different in it, that's a member of the LGBTQ community, or is just a diverse book, let me know, especially in fantasy, because it seems like it's really sparse in that particular genre. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe, like, leave comments, and let me know what you'd like to see in the future. So the drink I'm doing for the Pride Month video is the Hurricane. This is a tiki drink, which means there's lots of rum in it and there's lots of juice in it. It's a very fun drink, and it's one of those drinks that the moment you start it, you know you're gonna have a long night. So to make a Hurricane, you have 2 ounces of white rum, 2 ounces of dark rum, 1 ounce of lime juice, 1 ounce of orange juice, half an ounce of simple syrup, 2 ounces of passionfruit pulp, and half an ounce of grenadine. So after you have everything together, you ice up your drink and you shake. Then you have your drink, and this is going to make a nice pink hurricane. And there you have your hurricane.